In 2014, log exports represented a third of total log production, leaving the majority for added value manufacturing and local consumption. This means approximately 267,931 cubic meters, or 66% of the total log production, remained in the country. This week on Dorado Shines, you will learn more about the operations in the forestry sector, log production, exports, value-added activities, training and projections for 2015. The forestry sector contributes significantly to the national economy and provides jobs for thousands of Guyanese. As the industry moves to more value-added type operations, the number of jobs created is expected to further increase.
The forestry sector employs about 24 to 25,000 persons annually, right? So that is one big plus already. It provides an opportunity for employment generation. If we go down more into the value-added stream, that number will increase dramatically. In terms of our export contribution or export thing, forestry last year brought in $54 million in terms of export earnings, and already for January we have gotten about $3.6 million already, which is a significant improvement over the January 2013 figure, which was 2.3. So it's an increase of 75%.
The council is playing a major role in encouraging the industry to go more value-added, in the more value-added direction. With the CMEU flat agreement that is in place, opportunities will be there to produce more sawn lumber, truss lumber, to access the market. And we will be addressing stakeholders in that regard. We'll be pointing out these opportunities to stakeholders. The profiles that we have produced in past years, we'll be again putting those profiles to stakeholders with a view of encouraging them to get more involved in value-added production.
The Guyana Forestry Commission reiterates that a significant portion of the logs produced on an annual basis remain in the country.
Log production, some is exported, but a lot of it is used in country for conversion to sawn products, some of which are exported, some of which are utilized in the industry. And I would say quite a lot of it is used for construction, or in the construction industry also, as piles and posts and so on.
Just over 30% of total log production is exported each year. The remainder is utilized in Guyana.
I would say about 30 to 35% of total log production is exported. The remainder is utilized in country for value-added construction and other activities. I also want to emphasize the point that there is no overharvesting. The annual allowable cut under Sustainable Forest Management Guidelines for Guyana is about 1.6 million cubic meters. And in 2014, we did about 540,000 cubic meters, which was an improvement over previous years, but still way below the annual allowable cut. I also want to stress the point that when we look at an area of forest that people are harvesting, the area on which, the average area on which one tree is felled is about 9 acres, one tree every 9 acres. So there's a very, very low logging intensity, both in terms of the meter cubed and both in terms of the amount that is extracted, the amount of trees that is physically extracted from the forest.
Overall, the quantity of timber products that are exported in the form of logs is not as significant as some people would want to make it out to be. Just about 30-35% of the total logs harvested are exported in the form of logs. The other 65–70% is used in some form of value-added items. For instance, the minute you saw a lumber, from logs to lumber, the value-added process starts there, and then you get more. As you process more, you get more in depth into value adding. So we are constantly pointing out to stakeholders the need to get involved in for the value adding, so as to enhance their revenue, because the more value adding you do, the more your revenue base increases.
The Commission stresses that Guyana practices sustainable forestry.
We practice sustainable forestry. We have a maximum allowable cut, and whatever is taken out is replaced by natural regeneration. So there is absolutely no damage to the environment.
The Guyana Forestry Commission has very effective export procedures in place. All forest produce to be exported must be verified by a GFC grading inspector, and the required documentation must be properly completed and verified prior to export. The Commission is stressing that there is no over-harvesting going on in the country, and operations are being conducted well within the regulations governing the sector.
There is absolutely no over-harvesting. We are in compliance with sustainable forest management guidelines. The Guyana Forestry Commission and the Government of Guyana have taken best practices from ITTO, International Tropical Timber Organization, the Food and Agriculture Organization, and other agencies such as those, reputable, credible international agencies. And we have adapted their guidelines to the Guyana-specific country situation. And it's not only GFC that was involved in this process, but other stakeholders, direct stakeholders and indirect. So in terms of the guidelines that we have, they are very appropriate, very relevant.
Satellite imagery and data collected through the monitoring, reporting and verification system all point to full compliance and protection of the environment.
If you look at the MRVS, the Monitoring, Reporting and Verification Systems reports, over the last 4 years, they have all shown that Guyana is in compliance with the best practices in terms of the environment, protection of the environment, conservation of biodiversity, etc. So there is absolutely no degradation of the environment. This is also confirmed in the statistics shown by 5-meter resolution satellite imagery over the entire country, which showed that in 2013, the rate of deforestation was 0.068%, and in 2012, it was 0.079. These have all been independently verified by auditors chosen by Norway.
The auditors selected by Norway have also lauded the Commission for the work that is ongoing and improvements that have been made.
When we had a close-off meeting, they indicated that they were very pleased, not only with the performance of the GFC and the sector, but of the improvements that they saw relative to last year. So it means that we are continuously improving our practices.
The Commission will also be looking to further boost its monitoring capacity in 2015.
The GFC has 32 strategically located forest stations countrywide, and we plan to set up another 2 or 3 this year, and also to work in collaboration with the mining officers, etc., so that we have more focused monitoring, not only forestry, but forestry and mining. To complement the on-the-ground monitoring, we have the satellite imagery at 5-meter resolution for the entire country. So that would also point us to any untoward practices of stakeholders. But thankfully, our stakeholders are very compliant. From time to time, there will be procedural breaches, but we have hardly come across any environmental breaches.
Government assisting miners. Miners in Guyana have access to 10% of their gold sales available in US dollars to assist in retooling and capital acquisition. A message from the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission. Although the volume of logs being exported is just around 35% of total production, the Guyana Forestry Commission still believes that this can be even further reduced, allowing for more value-added activities in the country. The Commission will be pushing harder for this in 2015.
When there is more processing in country, there's more job creation and there is more revenue that is left in country. So we want to encourage persons in the sector to move towards more added value, even if it means conversion to lumber in the first phase, and then progressively go to more added value products. So that is going to be one of our priority areas again, continuing from previous work done. In this respect, we want to establish a training school for value-added forest products at all different scales, not only at the community and state forest commission or state forest association, or as it is called, levels, but also at the TSAs, timber sales agreements, and wood cutting leases.
It is hoped that more training will broaden the knowledge base and skills of those working in the sector, allowing them to increase the range of products being produced.
GFC, in collaboration with FPAMC and the ministry, has just finished a project proposal which we are now submitting to donors. The Indian government is one that we are submitting it to, and hopefully we should get some positive results. So that will go a very, very large way, a big way, towards promoting this, because one of the crises in the sector has been access to skills that are necessary for converting the raw material into these added value products. Another cry has been made in terms of the high cost of electricity, so they cannot be competitive. And we are eagerly awaiting the completion of the hydro, which will alleviate this problem.
The Forestry Training Center will also be playing a bigger role in the push to enhance skills and undertake more value-added operations.
The Forestry Training Center has been restructured to provide more targeted and focused training to concessionaires. You may know that they have a dedicated training site in Manaka, but we want to move away from that now to take it more decentralized, so they can actually go to concessions and do their training there. Additionally, we are doing a lot of training in-house for the GFC. Only recently, one of our assistant commissioners of forests was awarded an MSc to do studies in relevant studies in RED Plus, aspects of RED Plus, community, MRVS, etc. This is all in an effort to ensure that we not only have the skills now, but in the future, because forestry is a dynamic and changing environment. So we have to think ahead, we have to plan ahead. So we are doing this, we are sending a lot of our staff, relevant staff, on short courses. I say this without fear of contradiction, that we have one of the most, if not the most up-to-date GIS lab in the country. And as you know, GIS is a very, very important tool for forest monitoring and other types of monitoring.
Government assisting miners. The Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment and the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission continue to undertake the rehabilitation of hinterland roads and infrastructure to ensure mining lands are easily accessible. In this regard, efforts are being made to implement road monitoring checkpoints to ensure that roads are not used indiscriminately, since this results in its deterioration. A message from the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission.
I like to encourage people to take your garbage and take it home with you if you have to. You don't have to throw it on the streets.
Littering is not advisable, it's not healthy, and it's not right, so please don't litter.
When we litter, we damage our environment, we destroy the marine life, Let us protect our environment and more so bring back Guyana to the beauty that it once was and it can surely be.
Stop littering. Do the right thing.
Guyana has a wide variety of wood species, many of which is not being fully utilized. Efforts are being made to change this trend, despite some of the challenges producers face in fully exploiting this opportunity.
A major issue that producers have told us, they have voiced, is that look, why we can produce these lesser used species, we can harvest them, but why would we harvest them when there's no market for it? So I think there has to be a culture change. The Guyanese population is not willing yet to accept these lesser used species because I think we need to do more public education and awareness, even though we've done a lot. So what we did last year in collaboration with the Ministry of Natural Resources and with the FPDMC really coordinated this. We invited the PSs and the engineers and so of the different ministries. And we had a very, very good session where we told them, look, we have many less used species that have properties that are comparable to or probably even better than some of the traditional species. So let's give it a try, because if the government does not set the example, then the stakeholders would find it difficult to follow.
What we found recently is that there has been an increase in the exports of the less used species, especially in log form. And these logs go primarily to India and China, which have the technology in place to test the properties of those lumbers and establish end-use applications for them, the proper end-use applications. So those same companies, if they should come to Guyana, would be able to right away put the knowledge that they have to use almost immediately in the utilization of the less used species.
The Forest Products Development and Marketing Council is working to make it easier for Guyana's wood products to enter premium markets hassle-free.
We have just finished our strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan for the year 2015 to 2019. And one of the major focus in that plan is to get the industry ready to take care of opportunities that might present itself when Guyana would have completed and signed on to the EU FLET negotiations that are currently taking place. This agreement, it's a voluntary partnership agreement, would enable Guyana's wooden products in all forms to enter the European bloc of countries on a hassle-free basis.
Government assisting miners. A list of 19 suppliers of mining equipment and spares was approved for tax waivers on the importation of this equipment. This will reduce the cost of spares and critical supplies for miners and is an addition to items that are already being imported duty-free, such as pumps, flexes, and matting. A message from the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission. Godfrey Marshall recently retired as Deputy Commissioner of Forests and Director of the Forestry Training Center. His new portfolio as a Special Advisor to the Commissioner of Forest will see his expertise being used to mentor young managers within the Commission.
Godfrey retired in December 2014 after giving 42 years of sterling and immense contribution to the sector. And he has been one of the stalwarts in the forest industry, in the Guyana Forestry Commission, as well as in the forestry sector, the Forestry Training Center. He has represented Guyana locally and internationally, and he will continue to work with the sector as a special advisor to the Guyana Forestry Commission.
We have one planet. We have one Earth. And if we're going to deal with an issue as huge and as challenging and as threatening as climate change, we need to operate as a team. Nations have to work together. States have to work together. Peoples have to work. Communities have to work. Businesses have to work.
Now's the time to confront this challenge once and for all. Delay is no longer an option. The stakes are too high. The consequences too serious.
We will not succeed in addressing climate change if we do not include within any treaty REDD+, reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation of land, plus protecting standing forests where they still stand.
The relationship between deforestation and climate change is direct. There's a double whammy. First of all, deforestation contributes greater emissions to the atmosphere, increasing the problem. Secondly, deforestation lessens the planet's ability to absorb that carbon dioxide.
The destruction of the rainforest in Indonesia has been linked to the worst droughts in Australia in the last 10,000 years. The destruction of the rainforest in Amazon have been linked to some of the worst droughts which are currently occurring across America.
If we lose the forest, we are going to lose the water, we are going to lose the biodiversity, we are going to lose a lot of things that we have only in the natural lands.
Forests provide us with many different benefits in the form of ecosystem services.
The loss of forests particularly impacts the world's poorest populations. They're dependent upon those natural ecosystems for the water that they drink,
For agriculture,
for medicinal plants, or building their homes.
and of course they're a source of many other products that local communities use on a daily basis.
Reducing emissions from deforestation is an immediate option. It's one of the few immediate options that exist. Other solutions, which are critically necessary, wind, water, solar, etc., will have a lag of 10 to 20 years.
Conserving standing forests is not only one of the fastest and most efficient means of tackling climate change, but also delivers a host of other benefits.
Kyoto provided for carbon credits for reforestation, but unfortunately, and to the surprise of many of us, did not recognize standing forests.
If we can come up with brilliant ideas to try to keep the rainforest standing, that's going to make the battle much easier to win. And I think Conservation International is uniquely positioned to address this issue head on.
I asked a local farmer, why is he cut the forest? They said, to survive. I said, hey, earning money by chopping forest is not good. But I still didn't have anything in my pocket to start reforest.
We now have a solution to this problem in the form of REDD, compensating villagers, regions, countries for maintaining their tropical forests because of the great carbon value.
It is very important that indigenous people share with the benefits, precisely because we are the ones who have kept these forests intact.
It's very important right from the get-go to demonstrate that this can actually work in practical terms. This can actually be carried out in the field, that it's not some theoretical concept.
Conservation International is working on forest carbon projects throughout the world. By having this portfolio of models, CI is developing the knowledge of how REDD works in practice.
We've seen companies like the Dells and the Starbucks and the Walmarts being really interested in how do they reduce their own emissions.
We've worked with CI in purchasing carbon credits.
We have the ability to provide scientific tools, We have a deep reservoir of technical knowledge.
Peter Seligman had a vision of how Walmart could influence sustainability issues through its own activities as well as product selection.
We have participated very closely with the governor of California in the California Conference on Climate Change.
The governors that are signing these MOUs with us manage more than 60% of the world's tropical forests.
Another example is Guyana and Norway.
A little over a year ago, I joined with Conservation International to call for the inclusion of forests in the global fight against climate change. In that year, the world again lost an area of forest the size of my country, which is larger than England.
The model is Norway provides funding to Guyana, and that the benefits from the funding from Norway are distributed in an equitable manner to the people who live in those forests.
A number of countries that have had historically very low deforestation rates, like Guyana, like Suriname, initially were off the table in discussions of REDD. But we demonstrated that these high forest cover, low deforestation rate countries accounted for more than 30% of the world's tropical forests, and they had to be part of the overall vision.
This is a challenge that faces the human family. The only way that we can address these issues is through deep, broad partnerships. And that's what CI is committed to.
Check us out on the internet for this and every episode of Dorado Shines. Just go to YouTube, search for Dorado Shines, and start watching. Or like us on Facebook and receive instant updates. You've been watching Dorado Shines. Do join us again next week for another program. Until then, do remember that we all have a role to play in protecting the environment.